He came home to Britain this month with cameras on him every single step of the way. Court battles, family reunions, charity visits. But in the middle of all that noise, Prince Harry said something on a podcast that almost nobody caught. It sounds small. It sounds like nothing. But stick with me, because the more you look at it, the more this nothing starts to say a lot about where Harry actually stands right now. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why royal watchers are calling it one of the most telling slips of his entire UK trip. To understand why this moment matters, you need to understand what Harry was walking into this July. This wasn't a quiet visit. This was Harry stepping back onto British soil during one of the most emotionally loaded stretches of his post-royal life. Days earlier, he'd suffered a major legal defeat on July 7, 2026. Prince Harry and 6 other claimants lost their privacy case against Associated Newspapers, with London's High Court dismissing all of their claims after finding they had failed to prove their allegations of unlawful information gathering. A court sketch, a losing verdict, a very public reminder that even now, Harry is still fighting battles with the British press, and losing them, because while the lawyers were losing in court, Harry was quietly trying to do something completely different. He was trying to reconnect with home. And that's where this story gets interesting. In the middle of the legal drama, Harry showed up somewhere softer, a charity festival in Warwickshire for children who lost a parent in military service. And for a moment, it looked like the old Harry, the relaxed one, the one who jokes with kids and gets down on the ground with them. He even ended up in a goat yoga session, and, well, let's just say one of the goats had other plans for him. But behind the smiles, something bigger was happening. This trip was also stitched together with reunions, including a private one with his own father. And it's in the middle of all this, the court loss, the family tension, the cautious steps toward reconciliation, that Harry sat down for a podcast interview that was supposed to be about nothing controversial at all. Just him, talking about himself. That's usually the safest kind of interview there is. Except it wasn't. Now, on the surface, that might not even register. It's the kind of phrase millions of people use casually every day. But if you actually know your royal history, that phrase is a problem. Because it's not just outdated. It's factually impossible. The Kingdom of England stopped existing as its own country in the year 1707. That's when the Acts of Union merged England and Scotland into a single kingdom, Great Britain. Over time, that evolved further into what we know today, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Which means there hasn't been a Kingdom of England to be a prince of in over 300 years. And here's the part that makes it sting even more. This isn't some obscure trivia only historians would know. This is basic, foundational information about the very institution Harry was born into. His official title, the one on paper, the one used on his own children's records, is Prince of the United Kingdom. Not England, the United Kingdom. It's the same title his brother William holds. It's the same title used on official documents for his own kids. So this wasn't a matter of opinion or interpretation. It was a factual slip, live, on record, about his own identity. And that raises an uncomfortable question. If Harry doesn't quite know how to describe his own royal position anymore, what does that tell us about how disconnected he's actually become? Now, to be fair to Harry, he course-corrected in the same breath. After stumbling through Prince of England, he eventually landed on the title Duke and left it there for the rest of the conversation. It's not like he spiraled. It was a quick slip, quickly patched over. But the internet doesn't always let things go that easily. And royal commentators picked up on it fast, framing it as one more small sign in a much bigger conversation, one about whether Harry, for years removed from royal life and living an ocean away, still fully holds the details of the institution he was raised inside. It lines up uncomfortably well with something else swirling around this same trip. Renewed talk about whether his children, Archie and Lilibet, might one day lose their own princely titles altogether once William becomes king. One royal editor put it plainly earlier this year. She said it seems obvious that William will, at the very least, strip the titles down the line, especially now that we've already seen King Charles do something similar by removing his brother Andrew's princely title entirely. Here's the twist nobody's talking about. Harry isn't the only senior royal man who's fumbled the family history. Prince William himself has openly admitted, on camera, that his, in his own words, rubbish at royal history, and that he sometimes has a double-check dates with his own son, 12-year-old Prince George, who apparently has a real flair for the facts. So this isn't some uniquely Harry problem. It's a bigger pattern, a generation of royals raised inside the institution who, once they step outside the constant briefings and staff and protocol officers, start to lose their grip on the very details that define who they are. The difference is William still lives it every day. Harry doesn't. And that difference is exactly why one stumble on a podcast turned into a story, while William's own admission barely made a ripple. Which brings us to where things stand right now, because this podcast moment didn't happen in a vacuum. It landed in the middle of a trip that was already being watched like a hawk. Right now, Harry is trying to walk an incredibly narrow path. He's fighting to rebuild bridges with his father. He's trying to reintroduce his children to a grandfather they barely remember. He's kicking off the countdown to the 2027 Invictus Games back home in Birmingham. And underneath every single one of those moments, there's still the unresolved question of his security, his title, and his place in a family and a country he technically stepped away from years ago.